Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about that Logan Paul box opening. A lot of people have been asking me for my take on Logan Paul since he got in the game. I'm going to do analysis later on in the video, but man, we got to talk about that box. We got to talk about that box opening. It was so good. That was honestly one of the best experiences I've had in this hobby. I felt so connected with everyone, watching that live on Discord, on that E4 thread. It was just so much fun, seeing what PokeRev was gonna get, seeing what PokeRan was gonna pull. I wanted to get one of those packs, but I was too late to the game. It was so much fun. I felt so connected, and each pack had its own mystery to it. First edition base is by far the most exciting thing to open, bar none. Each card has an identity. Each card has a certain value. So even if you weren't getting a non-hollow, I think it was PokeRan's pack. He got a non-hollow pull instead of a hollow. Even then, it's you get some of those starters, get a Pikachu, Bulbasaur, whatever, you still are good. It's so much fun. It's so much fun seeing that diversity. It's such a dynamic opening because there's so many possibilities. We get the red cheek Pikachu, the bane of the existence. I knew it was going to happen. When they're six Pikachus deep, yellow cheek, I'm there's no way that red cheek is in there. There's no way. It just wasn't on the sheet. But either way, that box was S tier. That was smpratte tier. That thing was so god tier. You had all the starters, Charizard, Venusaur, two Blastoise, three Chansey, ton of Pikachus, ton of Bulbasaurs, Squirtles, Charmanders. It was just unreal. That box was unbelievable. Again, the non-hollows, War Turtle showed up halfway through. I love that. I'm okay, where's the War Turtle? Where's the Charmeleon? Dude, first edition base is just where it's at. So yeah, that box opening was so much fun. Of course, there were certain things that I think would help improve. I mean, keep in mind when I'm saying improve, I'm a dude sitting in grandma's basement talking to you into a camera. I'm nowhere near an expert on how to YouTube. You could right away when I was watching that, I'm you could tell the difference between someone who does YouTube full time and they have this thing called a manager and this whole crew and everything is so professional. But I think from the hobby side, it would have been nice to have Gary or myself or someone who's an expert who could sit there and just be okay, this card, some of them, when they pulled a Caterpie or Growlithe, it would have been cool to be actually, this one's solid, or Dragonair, it's one of the better, non-hollow pulls, just flesh out that identity a little more. Yeah, we'll talk about the Bulbasaur 30K. I know that's what everyone wants to sink their teeth into. Maybe that could segue us into the more critical discussion. But yeah, the Bulbasaur thing was just a meme. I don't know what they were thinking. I think at first I was did they think Venusaur? Did he just not realize that he said Bulbasaur, and then he just doubled down instead of just being oh yeah, it's obviously not 30,000. So yeah, that was a crazy meme that we all saw born live. A million people saw that instantaneously happen. So yeah, the Bulbasaur 30K, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. If you had an expert there, it would be easy just in real time because it's just like Gary or whoever. It's just immediately they know the card. They have tens of decades of experience selling that thing. So yeah, but again, that's just, there's no point in nitpicking because it was just so much fun. I think it was, again, one of the best streaming experiences for sure I've ever had. Bar none. This reminded me kind of what was that thing on Twitch? Twitch plays Pokemon. It reminded me of that, where it's we're all connected with this common goal here, this common point. I got those vibes. That's what I was feeling. It was a Twitch plays Pokemon type deal. So yeah, I can't say enough about that. Overall, very nice, macro positive, very exciting. I hope it does another one. Maybe I'll do one eventually. But if I shouldn't, because when you look at something like that, it's a whole other level of how you're supposed to YouTube. So yeah, that's what I have for the boxing. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about, people always want to hear the abstract market analysis of, these bigger players getting into the game. Gary's posting these photos of guys playing Barbie at his house, buying Charizards and some cards. And of course, the same cycle happens every time. We saw it a couple years ago. We saw it in 2016. We saw it in 2014 with Gold Stars. You saw it in 2011 with social media. You see the same cycle happen where prices increase, new people get into the game. You start hearing the same terms come up out of nowhere. Bubble, whatever. Money talk, more of the same thing. One thing I wanted to drive home is try to give some realistic optimism here that people in this hobby need to learn how to level up sometimes. What I mean by that is that people have been here a while, just like in Pokemon. Squirtle's very cute. It's a cute Pokemon, but when you evolve, you become more mature. You got two cannons out of your back now when you grow up as an adult. That's what a lot of people need to learn to do instead of hitting B. You know, they emotionally hit B. Like when something new comes in the game, they're like, B, I don't like it. B, like, I don't want to evolve. I want to stay Squirtle forever. And I think that like keeps people stuck. And I think it actually like reinforces that negative stereotype of like, you know, people living in the basement that we're always trying to shed in Pokemon. I'm not doing any favors with my little grandma house here that I have, but like people who like are stuck in that negative stereotype, why it's inherently negative is because you are stuck. Like you're not really moving forward. And I see a lot of that with people who get frustrated. I don't really understand the frustration because, you know, it's just people getting to the hobby. Like you can't control that. You know, it's people just enjoying the same thing you enjoy. And sure, they might not do it the same way you do, but you know, that's just part of life. Like some people don't like Blastoise, some people pick Charmander, some people pick Bulbasaur, some people pick Pikachu, and then those weirdos who picked Eevee. You know, there's always a variety of options and values and everything we do in life. And the same is true for Pokemon. So like when these bigger players come in, it's more of the same. It's just they're just public entities that we can look at and like, you know, microscopically critique. But at the end of the day, it's just more of the same stuff. Like, it's just another person. There's plenty of people like that who are private. They've been here a long time. In fact, I felt isolated on that island for a long time when I'd be like, oh, hey, I sold this card for this price. And people would just like, just an avalanche of salt would come down on top of that because they weren't aware. And now it's so obvious because they're all out there in the public now. You can see and Google these people like Gary Vee, his net worth. So he could probably afford to buy these cards that aren't that expensive. You know, that's just what's going on. It's nothing new. It's been happening since the beginning. Now it's just more in your face. It's more out there. But I just wanted to hammer home this idea about growth because that's what's going on. This is just another growth cycle. It's another growth moment. And again, with that, the negative perception is, yeah, it's a bubble, right? It's a negative perception. Since 1999, you heard it. Every growth cycle, you get this. 2016, Pokemon Go. That was like a microcosm of the 90s. Everybody was like Pokemon Go bubble, memes on memes on memes. That little like Discord meme, like the finger popping the bubble, Pokemon Go in there. Everybody was saying it, and here we are. Any of those prices in 2016 would be an absolute dream today. They'd be an absolute dream. So the point is that this bubble reaction, I don't really see it as much of a market analysis as much as I do an emotional impulse. And it comes from a lot of people who are smashing that B button because they don't want to evolve. You know, they don't want to lose that sheltered cuteness of Squirtle, and I get it. But that's part of life. You know, part of life is growing. Becoming stronger is tearing a muscle and recovering. It's not just sitting there and doing the same thing. There's a reason why Squirtle's attack is bubble, not Blastoise. I mean, that's the easiest way to get it. Like, there's a reason why Squirtle's attack is bubble. A lot of those people blowing that bubble, like saying it's in a bubble all the time, I don't really see that as a market analysis. I see it as emotional reaction. More specifically, I see it people trying to get prices down to an arbitrary comfort, an arbitrary price, because in 2016, everybody said it was a bubble then, just like they did 2014 and 2011 and 1999. Everybody's been saying bubble at some point in time. The reality is this is just completely arbitrary pricing because these are luxury goods. It's just based on demand. That's all it is. I think a lot of people forget that, you know, that demand is something that you really just can't like force onto someone. Because I think that's what's necessary. Let's take the 30K Bulbasaur. I think that's a good example. That is a video now that has, what, 4 million views, something like that. $30,000. Are they selling now for $30,000? No. Why? Because a mixture of, like, genuine interest, awareness. Like, people aren't dumb. Like, they're not going to buy a Bulbasaur at 30K when Venusaur's floating around that price. You know, that's, I think, more to that point is that I don't think the market is that fickle in that people are just, like, blindly walking around. It's comprised of people who are chasing a passion, who are chasing an interest. And in that process, it's like you're chasing an interest in learning and understanding. It's an information journey. You know, I think a lot of people misunderstand that not only Pokemon, not only investments, life perhaps at large is knowledge-based. It's not numbers-based. It's not analytics-based. It's knowledge-based. And that's what hobbies are. You're on this information journey, finding out like, oh, there's first edition cards, there's shadowless cards, there's unlimited cards. And then you get into like all the deeper layers of like Japanese promos, trophy cards, exclusive things. You know, this was only given out here. This was only given out at this tournament. That's what you're constantly doing in hobbies. You know, you're constantly acquiring information. So therefore, the average person, you know, people who think like these guys coming in making money, sure, I don't doubt that there's always that element of people who are just here to make a few bucks. I absolutely agree that those people are here, but they can always sustain because the core of the market is interested. I think a good data point for that is if you look at E4, I would say E4 probably owns 20% easily of the PSA 10 first edition Charizard pop, like easily. And if you look at a lot of those guys, they bought Charizard when he was like low five figures. You know, what's it going for now? Like high hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe flirting with $200,000. You know, that could be life-changing money for some of those people. And yet they haven't sold. You know, because they're truly conflicted. They're like, hey, if I sell this, you know, I'm never going to get it back. And that's probably like their marquee item in their collection. You know, that's probably their biggest item. So they know if they cash out, it's got to be like a number that they're truly happy with, that they can like do something else with, or, you know, they can use for whatever it is. But that's that actual conflict that represents true collectors. You know, that represents an actual collector. And I think that's where most people exist, at least in my experience. Maybe I'm biased because those are the people I talk to the most. But I think that's why the market is constantly in this growth cycle pattern where you have this new entry of people, and you know that comfort price. I think this is another good idea to get out there, is that comfort price when people are like, oh, this price is too high, it should be this price, right? Because that's what people are saying. This new price is too high, it should come back down here. The reality is this price here is someone else's bubble price, because at the end of the day, it's all arbitrary. You know, people don't really know for sure. Even me, with all my analytics and experience and everything, no one can tell you 100% if the market is in a bubble, which cards are in a bubble, because I think it's the better way to look at it. At the end of the day, it's just completely supply and demand. It's completely driven by interest. Sure, and a huge economic downfall, I definitely see a lot of certain cards hitting the market. General observation is probably the lower tier, because that's more of a variety of people owning it. It could be people who are like in college, really young, all the way to older people, like the vintage collectors like myself. You know, it could be a wide range of people. When you get into stuff like, you know, Logan Paul, Steve Aoki buying these Charizards, like a rapper buying these Charizards, it's like, I don't really think people where you can publicly search and a net worth is like 50 to 100 times, like thousands of times more than that card. I don't really think those are the people who are going to be dumping those things, you know, during a recession. But, you know, if they do, there's always someone there willing to buy it at a price. And maybe a couple things to close with here is that people who still genuinely believe the market's in a bubble, you should be happy. You know, you should be happy that you think it's in a bubble. Because if you truly believe that it's going to go down, you should be like, yeah, I'm good. Like, all this stuff's going to drop, right? But in reality, that frustration is there because it's an emotional reaction to something they can't control. Because the market is bigger than everybody. That's why I always say sperm of the sperm whale. We're seeing these guys now. Like, go look up what they're worth, what they're doing. Like, you see some of these people now. These are the public like whales. You can see their little tail pop out of the ocean now, and they're doing a little backflip. You can see these guys now. You can see the whale lords now. They're more public. That's why I always said sperm of the sperm whale, because I've been doing calls with them for years. I've been selling to them for years. These, again, are just public examples of the diversity that's out there in the ecosystem of hobbies. Again, I think it's all just genuine interest. I think that this box opening is just a really nice focal point of where we are. It's a really great example of that growth cycle. We had it before 2016, 14, 11. You know, there's multiple like iterations of the same thing throughout the hobby. But yeah, all I can end with is that collectors are silent. Remember that. Hashtag, I need to get a shirt that says collectors are silent. It's just inherently a very like private thing you do. You know, even the public people, like even me, I'm public technically, but no one knows majority of the cards. Definitely not all the cards I own. No one ever will, because a lot of it's private. A lot of it's just me putting binders together so I can look at them in my free time. You know, a lot of it's me seeing art impulsively that I like and I just buy it. That's what a lot of it is. So I think that's what drives the market. I think all the like the 30K Bulbasaur stuff, while it's a good meme that we dogpile on, it's just low-hanging fruit. It's just like with the Champions Path thing. It's like, this is low-hanging fruit. This is a minority. This stuff is a lot of noise for very little sustenance, very low substance, where collectors are the opposite. It's a lot of substance, a lot of sustenance with very, very little noise. It's inherently just a quiet thing. It's a very personal thing, what we do. And I think this box opening was a way to share that personal experience. It was so much fun. So yeah, that's my take on everything. Again, hopefully trying to get that realistic optimism out there. You know, give you that like analysis with some optimism, because I think that's the hardest thing to do at the end of the day, is have that critical awareness while also still being optimistic about what you enjoy. So yeah, hopefully I achieved that. You know the deal. Let me know how you feel. And that's pretty much it, guys. Till next time.